Hi, hello, and welcome to a new episode of Release. I'm your host, Adriana, and I'm so honored and grateful that you've taken the time to listen to what I have to say. Today, I am going to talk about something that is, I know it might be triggering for some people. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. Like, if you can't listen to the whole episode, that's okay, but I'm going to try my best to use non-triggering language because I'm trying my best to create a space of vulnerability for myself, which also creates a space for you to be able to feel less alone in your own feelings. Because as you see somebody else begin to open up, even if you don't say anything, you also begin to open up because we are mirrors of each other. But it is Suicide Prevention Month, and I wanted to talk about my experience with like growing up in this kind of like society where you're seeing younger and younger people committing. I'm going to refer to it as committing. Kind of, obviously growing up in the church and the view of it there. Yeah. We'll start with the church part. So, obviously, well, maybe not obviously for some people, but in Christianity, committing suicide is a sin. I'm sure it is a sin in a lot of religions, now that I'm thinking about it, but it's considered a sin. It's like an automatic go straight to hell card. And when I was younger and my mom would find like a diary entry of me even alluding to wanting to necessarily not exist anymore, she would tell me that A, I was selfish, and B, I want to go to hell. I must want to go to hell. That's why I'm having these thoughts. She's never had those thoughts and blah, blah, blah. And I hear that kind of rhetoric a lot in Christian circles. Even if it's not said the way that she said it, it's kind of implied that your will to live or your fear of hell should overcome your will to give up. I don't know how to word it specifically, but it's like what's actually happening within you doesn't really matter. You have to abide by these fears, and this is why I don't necessarily subscribe to Western religion anymore. Like the Bible as a book. Actually, let's backtrack that. Not the Bible as a book. No, Jesus as a person, regardless of if you believe that he existed or not, he was one of the great teachers, and he has a lot of teachings. And I've been listening to podcasts, and they've been saying that when you really think about it, and I've been thinking about this a lot, but when you really think about it, Jesus spoke in metaphors, and the Bible is one big book of metaphors. This is just what they said, because a lot of people subscribe to that literature. A lot of people, that is their truth and their way. So I'm not trying to like shit on it. I'm just saying that there's some things that are mystical that could have just been metaphors. Maybe they actually did happen. Maybe some of the things actually did happen, but they're just saying that it's metaphorical. Like a lot of like the Bible is like one big proverb, basically. Yeah, if you look at it like that, like they're like, okay, there's a Buddhist proverb and there's a this and there's a that, but if you really break things down and begin to connect things to your spirituality and signs that are given in the Bible can be cross-referenced into spiritual other Eastern texts, and you can see the correlation. You can see how they are metaphors, but I digress. When you grow up in an environment like the church, Christianity, where already being depressed is frowned upon, because why are you depressed? You have the grace of the Lord. And then on top of that, it's like you also can't kill yourself. You also can't commit because you're gonna go to hell. It's all this like fear mongering of forcing you to be everything but human. It's literally conditioning you to be uncomfortable at all times. You have to make sure that you speak a certain way, that you act a certain way, that you blah, blah, blah. And of course, morals are important. And of course, being a quote unquote good person, whatever that looks like to you, is important. But it shouldn't be fear mongering. It should be something that you decide consciously that you want to change. So you seek out the deficiencies in yourself. You seek out where you kind of lack, and then you work to make those things better. You work to come to equilibrium. But if you fearmonger, the person's never going to change. They're simply going to learn how to hide. That's exactly what I did. I think that I can't remember the first time that I necessarily felt like, oh, I'm sad, really. But I remember the first time where it was like a violent thought. I remember, I think I was in 7th or 8th grade, I think, and I had gone to the movies with a friend, and it was 2 people, and me and the other girl had gone to the third girl's house to wait for her to get ready, and then we were going to go to the movies together. But she didn't like taking the bus, so we had to wait for her mom to do what she was doing and then drop us. So we went to a later movie, obviously, and I got home late. And I remember I got home, and I think my mom yelled at me because I got home late. And I remember crying and screaming, and I was like, I'm such a bad, like in my head, I was like, I'm such a bad child, like my mom trusted me, blah, blah, blah. And it was like all of these thoughts were like bubbling up in my head, and I felt so defeated. Like I literally felt as though I had ruined so much for her in that moment. And it's a very intense thought to have as, how old are you in 8th grade? A 13-year-old? Yeah, and I now that I look back on it felt like, because my parents' standards for me were so high in all areas of my life, like I've talked in earlier episodes, I've talked about how I used to go to school 7 days the week, like straight, like it was just all school. There's always a lesson, there's always a class, there's always something, and I'm always being kept at a specific level. Like in school, it's always, you got 99, why didn't you get 100? It's not congrats on the 99, it's why didn't you get 100? I remember one time, I don't remember if I've told the story before, but if I have, enjoy the story. When I was in 3rd grade, I did a test, and I got a 98 on the test, and my teacher called my mother in because I got a 98 and told her that I made a silly mistake because the last 2 points were for a question that she knows that I know the answer, and I could have gotten 100 on it. And my mom yelled at me, and this teacher and my mom yelled at me for getting a 98. And that's the standard that I am always, or I was always being held to when I was going to school, or when I was in, let's call it grade school. And in every single way, in the way that I presented myself to the world, I had to be crisp. Obviously, I have to be crisp and clean, but it was like to another level. Like there was like a scrutinizing of you can't wear this kind of clothes, you can't do this, you can't do that. Like I own one pair of sweatpants. Actually 2. One that I got in 8th grade that has holes in it. I'm pretty sure I just threw it out. And then another one that was a gift. When I was younger, I wasn't allowed to, it was only jeans when I was going out. Or it was just like a specific standard. So then as I got older, I held myself to that standard. I have to be put together. I remember a partner that I had. He was one that bought me the jeans, the oh my God, the sweats. He would get mad at me because he was like, you're never comfortable. I want you to be comfortable when you come to see me, blah, 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 because I would get ready. Like I would properly get ready just to go to his house, and his house was like 15 minutes away because I was taught that I had to look very presentable at all times. So that's just exactly what I had conformed to. That's just what I had become really early in life. And he was very insecure because his thought pattern was, why are you getting dressed up? Who are you getting dressed up to see? You're coming to my house, which means that you should just look comfortable, because the only time anybody's going to see you is from the time that you leave your house to the time that you get to my house, kind of thing. It was very much a jealousy issue. But my mom would yell at me when I wore the sweatpants in public. She'd be like, why do you look like that? You look like you don't have a home, blah, 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 whatever. But again, I'm getting sidetracked. Because of that standard that I was held to in all spheres of life, like I got really, really hard on myself, and I started feeling suicidal really, really early in life. I have a lot of poems that I've written. Poetry is very good. I like to write my poems in my notes, or when I write them down, I write the date. it's a very good way of tracking your growth. Excuse me. Yeah, so I would write about these feelings that I had. Obviously, I wouldn't show them to anybody, but it's terrifying to look back and see the kind of emptiness that I had developed. I was walking around very, very sad, high grades, but basically empty on the inside. And I remember when I was in high school, my friends getting diagnosed with depression, and I was always like, I'm not that bad. Like, I'm literally overdiagnosing myself. Like, I'm fine. And I knew, like, my friends were fine too, obviously, but they were experiencing, from the outside looking in, I felt this kind of pain to see my friends get a diagnosis like that at so young and see it on their faces. Like, I could see the sadness, I could see the weight on their faces. And in my head, I think it was probably started in high school, I started avoiding mirrors. It got a lot worse. Maybe 4 years ago, it got worse. Now we're getting better. Now we like mirrors. Now we like to look at ourselves. I like to take pictures in reflective surfaces because it reminds me that now I am looking at myself. Like, before, I used to avoid mirrors unless I was doing my makeup or whatever. And it's just now I'm realizing how pretty my face is. Like, I look at my face and I'm like, look at all my little freckles. Look at this, look at that. My eyes are so blah, 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 blah. But then before, I wouldn't really be looking at my face. I would use a lot of filters. This year, I stopped using filters completely. I don't edit my pictures. I just post them with all the imperfections, because it's important to me to be able to love the version of myself that I'm presenting to the world. And if I have a skewed version of what I am, the filter, in some ways I'm lying to myself. Obviously, that's not the same for everybody. That's just me being me, and my personal feelings. But yeah, I started writing about feeling really, really sad, and I never really told anybody. I just thought that it was, sadness is sadness. And then when I was in 11th grade is when I think it all came crashing down. That was the first time I had grade 11 academic math, statistics. No, not statistics. No. Functions, advanced functions. Or no, regular functions. That class, my teacher was not the best. Let's just say, I'm not gonna call his name, but if you know, you know. Yeah, he was not the best, and I just wasn't learning anything in his class. When it started to get complicated, I literally just blanked out. And that was the first time I had failed a test. I cried. And he said he wanted to see my parents, and I cried for so long. I told this man, I was like, I do not fail things. I don't think you understand. My parents are going to kill me. And he's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. I want to see them. I was like, you do not understand. My parents are going to kill me. And he arranged the meeting, and my parents went, of course, and I was there, and they just degraded me in front of the teacher, and he just watched. And I just sat there, And they just, 3 adults just yelled at me. Well, not 3, the teacher didn't yell, but 3 adults staring at you in your moment of failure, accusing you of whatever they were accusing me of, and I completely lost it. Before that meeting, I think this was in the first semester, yeah. After that meeting, I just, I think the meeting was at lunch, or maybe I had gotten the test at lunch, and then he wanted to see my parents, like the next day or something. But at lunch, I just lost it. I cried for an hour straight. I was at lunch and I just couldn't stop crying. I felt like a failure. I felt like I'd rather go anywhere but home. I was a wreck. And then, as I said, the meeting was awful. And then the next semester, I was in a class and a teacher came to get me and was like, the guidance counselor came to get me, and she said that there were some teachers that were worried about me, and she thought that we should have a conversation. So we talked, and I remember telling her that I feel like everybody would be happier if I just wasn't alive. And I remember telling her, I'm like, you cannot tell my parents. You cannot tell them. Please do not tell them. And she told them. And my parents have, or my mom at least, used to do this thing where she would go through my phone. And she would go through text messages. Like, she would scroll all the way up to the top of the text field and read everything. And she'd taken my phone away for some reason. And my parents told me that obviously she told them what I had said because I'm literally 17. And 17 or 18. And this is the shit that I'm telling them. So, like, obviously they're concerned. So they tell my parents, I think I might have been 17 because I wasn't, 17. And they told me that the reason why I told her that is because she took my phone away. Like, there was no sympathy at all. It was just, this must be about something that I have done because I am a bad parent, blah, 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 whatever. And then first year, university, second year, a lot of things happened. A lot of very hard, heavy hitting things. And maybe on one episode I'll talk about some of those things, but we'll just deal with one thing at a time. A lot of things happened during COVID, and I was getting worse and worse and more depressed, and I felt like I was a literal ghost. I felt like I was on autopilot. I felt like nothing around me was real. That's another reason why I had stopped really looking in mirrors, because when I looked at myself, I didn't recognize myself. My eye bags were so deep. I looked like a ghost. I literally looked like I was dying. And I just stopped looking in the mirrors because I just couldn't face myself. And then I started to disassociate. I wouldn't really I talked about this last episode, I think, but I would sort of like be somewhere, get up for the day, be like, okay, I'm getting ready. I'm somewhere, and somehow I'm monitoring what I'm doing and I'm present enough. But then when I really clock into my consciousness, I'm like back in bed or something. Like the time just doesn't feel real. And when you begin to question how real you are because of how numb you feel, that takes a very strong toll on you. And before or I guess when things started to get quite rough, I started to go a little bit on the extreme when it came to smoking weed, of course, in particular. And I would be high all the time. The higher I could get, the better. I was essentially trying to K-word myself. But if it was an OD, then it wasn't that bad, right? Like, I don't think it was conscious, but now that I'm talking about it, I knew it was unhealthy and I knew something was wrong, but there was no other outlet because I couldn't go to my parents. I felt alone. I can't express how that feels. And I was very Miss Independent, and I still am, of course, but I'm trying more to rely on people and to talk and to be vulnerable about things because I'm realizing it helps people and it also builds connection. Of course, no man is an island. And that didn't work, and COVID hit, and I was sort of locked in these walls by myself. I started to lose it. I really started to wake up every morning and stare at the walls, and it literally felt like a prison. There's nowhere to run. I just had to sit in the pain, and it hurt a lot. It felt like there was burning just day in, day out. I try my best to stay in my room, try my best to not be seen. And it was only when we were stuck in the house that my mom noticed that something was actually wrong. But whatever. And then COVID kind of, like, the mandates sort of lifted, and we could go. I remember I used to go to work. It was really my only outside time, I would go outside, and even then I still felt claustrophobic. Even when I was outside, I would still feel like, I don't know, I would still feel like I was so hollow, but I was like, I don't have a good description for this. And that is such a really lonely feeling. I think that's the best way to describe it. It feels like life is living you, in a sense. Like, things are happening and you have no control. That's how normal life is, but this feels more like you're so light, anything can knock you down, And it feels like you're just being knocked down over and over and over and over and over and over. And it's very disheartening, because I remember during the beginning of quarantine, a lot of things had happened, and I remember having this thought, and I've been having it a lot, or I had it a lot after the initial time, is that I wish things would slow down. Like, my world is crumbling, but things never stop moving. And now that I'm saying that again, it's really helping me to gain some perspective on what that actually means. Like, you need to, this is a little side note, but you need to prioritize yourself. Prioritize your needs. Prioritize what you need to do. Only do the things that you need to, and the things that you know will help you in the long run. That thing that you need to do that you're procrastinating, start. You have to start, or you'll never start. Because even though you're procrastinating, the time is passing. You are pushing away something that could be so beautiful and so fulfilling. Why are you so scared? As a little side note, maybe a little note to myself too, but that's really how I felt. I felt like the world was going so fast and my world was crumbling, and I was trying my absolute best to grip on. I was trying my best to not fall off the boat, but the boat was rocking. The seas were real stormy. But yeah. And then the first time that I don't know, one night I came home and it was a lot. It felt like a lot. I didn't know what to do. And I had a bunch of pills. I forget what name they have, but they were antidepressants, and I hated them. They made me feel really nauseous. They were gigantic, and they were the ones that you can shake the capsules. They were terrible. And I took like half the bottle, and I fell asleep. I was so over what life was offering me. I just wanted it to not be like this. Like, if I had to live life, I didn't want my life to feel this way, because that's not living. It's just existing, and it's really exhausting, even though you're not doing anything, but the energy that you have to live is so small. But yeah, I took the pills, and I was like, if this is the end, then I love my parents, I'm sorry. I love my friends, I'm sorry. I did a little prayer for all of the people that I love, that they would heal after I was gone, and I fell asleep. And I remember feeling I was very high. I remember feeling really, really calm. It kind of felt like I was on a sea, but it was just like slowly lulling me. Like yeah. And then I woke up a few hours later and I threw up. I'm sorry if that triggers. I know people have hematoma, the fear of throwing up. But I also hate it. So it was a lot for me. And it took a lot out of me mentally, because I wake up and I have to face the fact that I tried and failed, and now I have to face the world. I have to keep facing the world. Yeah. And after attempting, people say, oh, you have like a better outlook on life afterwards. You feel you're so thankful to be alive. I did not. Right after it happened, I can be honest, I did not feel happy to be here at all. I felt frustrated because I was like, listen, I can't take it anymore. Afterwards, I felt like I was going crazy. I was like, I can't take this anymore. I can't do it. There's just too much for me to do, and I am very scared. I would never, not very scared, but the only way that I could think of that would be the least traumatizing would just be falling asleep, versus whatever else there is that would be a lot for whoever found me to handle. It'd be a lot less traumatizing, I would assume. But anyway, now, a few years later, I feel a bit more thankful that I'm still alive, because I know that the universe is teaching me, source, the divine, whatever you believe in, whatever you refer to your higher power as, they are looking down on you, on me, on all of us with so much love. And sometimes again, if you believe in reincarnation, sometimes we have, contracts or things from past lives or whatever the case may be. We have really heavy things that are put on us, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. And you have to learn this lesson from this thing that you feel like is going to destroy you. I'm not saying that I'm quote unquote better, because mental health is a journey, and sometimes things still get really hard, and sometimes I have really bad breakdowns, sometimes I have panic attacks, whatever. But I'm saying that now I can sort of not, right now, the way that I see death is very different. Right now I see all of those heavy moments as deaths. I see them as me being so empty, and because I said I felt like a ghost, that means I was already dead. And then when you start feeling better, when you start feeling like things are moving along, when you start feeling hope, you're being reborn. And I've called it the dark night of the soul before. You can call this death a dark night of the soul, but it's like I'm starting to see life as this cycle. When you look around you and you look at nature exists in a cycle. I've talked about this too in New Beginnings and Endings. Just like we have right now, we're approaching fall. You have your seasons. After fall comes winter, and then spring and summer and fall, and it just keeps going around. That's how I feel like our lives kind of exist. It's like you have this beautiful new beginning, and then things keep going, and it's not going to be like a full circle like the or like a definite circle like the like the seasons. I feel like ours would have, some little breaking off points, little cycles on the side, because I feel like something good comes into your life. You have a new beginning, and you're moving along, and then you come to a crossroads that's like, do you need to let go of this thing? If it's a yes, then what do you need to change in your life? And then another cycle begins, and when you end that cycle, now you can move on with your life, and then it continues around and around and around. But when I pay attention to that, I realize that I don't necessarily fear death anymore, obviously after that experience, and after feeling so not great about life and sort of going through the dark nights and going through a lot of not great things, it has made me realize that I've been through death. As a human, I haven't experienced, or in this life, I haven't experienced physical death. That's only a one-time thing, but right now, I have died so many times that I don't fear physical death anymore. I sort of try my best to live for right now, because I don't know what 10 years from now is going to look like. And when you pay attention to the right now of things, even if things aren't great, what are the good things about today? Right now, I'm looking out the window and my neighbor has a beautiful sunflower garden, and my favorite flowers are sunflowers. And it's right in front of my bedroom window. I'm looking at it. It's beautiful. I love it. I can look at this to make me happy, even if the world is crumbling right behind me. In this moment, I'm looking at a beautiful sunflower garden and I'm happy. Or, oh my God, it's not that cold outside today. I can go for a walk. Or, wow, my favorite celebrity just posted a new song. My favorite artist just posted a new song. Or, oh my God, there's this TikTok recommending me to read a book. I'm going to go find that book and read it. Whatever it is in that moment, you find that specific thing. Always look for the good in the moment, and you hold on to it, because regardless of what is happening around you, you need to check in with you. Check in with yourself. Make sure that you find even 1 second in your day to do something good for yourself. Something good for yourself may be, I don't know, taking a bath. It may be buying yourself some candy. It may be, I don't know, buying, maybe not buying. You can do free things too. Maybe it's cleaning out your closet. Maybe it's texting a friend. Whatever it is, you do that thing and spend that time feeling good in the moment, because the good things are there to remind us that life isn't all bad. When you feel overwhelmed, it is not your job to keep pushing. It is your job to check in with yourself and say, hey self, we're feeling a bit overwhelmed. Humans should not be existing this way. We need to come back down into ourselves. You can try some grounding, try some breathing techniques, you can try journaling, whatever it is, but you need to release that energy so that you can come back to yourself and try to show up in front of those issues as your best self, so that you can fight the hard fight for as long as you can, and then you stop and you rest and you continue. And sometimes the overwhelming thing is not your mental health. Maybe it's school. School just started. Maybe it's work. Maybe it's whatever the thing is that is causing you stress. If you're studying and it's overwhelming, you close the book for a second. If it's late, you sleep. If it's like during the day and you're like, okay, I've been studying for a while and I'm hungry, you go eat. You have to pee, you go pee. A lot of people just sit in front of their computer and are like, oh, I have to pee, but I'll wait. And then they end up hurting themselves, hurting their bladders, whatever. But please take time to check in with yourself and remember that you are very loved. I love you. I'm so glad you're here. If you struggle with, you can reach out to me. You message me on Instagram at Unify Soul. If you have my number, text me. If you don't have anybody else, I'm here. Reach out to your friends, your family, people you trust, people you know. Will be able to lovingly approach a situation, somebody that you feel safe with. There are hotlines that you can call. There are hotlines you can text. There are online chats. Please, 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 you are not alone. I love you. You are very, very, very loved. And I'll talk to you guys in the next episode. Bye.